Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Happy Lunar New Year. Today I'm gonna cook one of the traditional Chinese food, dumplings for Chinese New Year, and I want to share my family traditional recipe. Um, to cook dumpling, if you cook it before, uh, it's complicated process, but then there are pretty much three steps, right? First, you got to make the dough and which you need flour. Usually I use this kind of unbleached, or you can buy bread flours. They're all the same. And then you're gonna make a fillings, and then this is where it comes. Different family have different traditions. So my family recipe is actually lamb. Which you don't hear it a lot. You see a lot of people using pork, but then my family we always use lamb. So I want to share my family recipe. So to make lamb dumpling, you need ground lamb. Usually you buy from grocery store. This is a 1 pound package, and then I usually pair it up with some carrots and um, and a lot of green onions. So usually I have depend on the size, right? About 7 or 8 carrots, and then 6 bundles of green onions. So that's what you need. And then the third step is making dumpling. Put them together, and after that, you boil them, and it's ready to eat. So now I'm gonna do step one, which is making the dough. So step one is making the dough. So usually, certainly traditional family, traditional way, you make the dough using a bowl and you mix it together. And to make things more efficient, we're gonna use a machine here, um, a kitchen mixer. Um, the 1 pound of lamb, I usually use like 4 cups of flour. Um, one, two, um, three, and the last one in there. So it's certainly gonna depending on how big you're gonna make your dumpling and all that stuff. Um, you sometimes you're gonna have leftover dough. Sometimes you're gonna have a leftover filling. It's kind of sounds funny that it's never it seems like it never happened that you just have the right amount. But then just remember, you would rather have more dough. You'd rather have leftover dough than leftover fillings in there, because leftover filling, there's like, what are you gonna do is a bunch of ground lamb. But then leftover dough, there's a lot of way you can do. You can just leave it in your freezer for next time, or you can make them noodles, or you can make some like a special dumpling with more dough than filling. So there's lots of creative way that when it comes with the leftover dough there. So I have about 4 cups of flour, which usually give me a little bit leftover dough. Um, and then regarding to water, it's usually about I would say 1 cup and a quarter in there. And then again, that come with personal preference. Some people like softer dough, some people like harder. So um, we're gonna have it started. Now the important of the reason I chose to make dough first is usually you're gonna need to have the dough to sit there for a while to have some chemical reactions and let them settle before they are ready to make. So that's why you want to make the dough first before you start to work on the fillings. All right. Now while the dough is working, I'm gonna work on the filling. All right. So step number two is we're gonna make the filling. So you're gonna want some container. I usually just use a pot, because in that way, I don't have to cook it like clean it too much afterwards, because this is gonna be raw meat. So the first thing you put in is gonna be the meat. And then before you put any vegetable in, you need to put all the seasoning on the meat, because it's the meat that really require all the seasoning, not the vegetables. So regarding to seasoning, usually I use some soy sauce. Uh, so regarding the soy sauce, it's kind of hard to give a measurement because when you buy different soy sauce, some are more salty than the other. Um, so you're just gonna have to taste. And then another thing is a lot of time I don't put a salt in my food. I just use soy sauce, so I tend to put more. Then after that, it's pepper. Now, I like to use this Chinese Sichuan pepper, but then if you have difficult time to find it, you can just use black pepper. So some pepper. All right. And this is something that's very easy to find in any grocery store, Chinese five spice blend, which I think have some pepper as well. All right. And then I also gonna put some ginger in there. So you can use ginger powder, or you can use this kind of chopped and minced ginger. You can certainly buy ginger yourself from grocery store and chop them up. But for convenient, I usually, just buy the minced ginger and leave them in the fridge so they are ready whenever I need them. And then the last thing I put is some oil. I use olive oil, just give more flavor. Certainly depend on your meat. If your meat has a lot of fat, maybe less oil, but then less fat, you may need to put some more oil in there. Um, and there's some oil in there. All right. That's everything. So we're gonna try to blend it up before we put more vegetable in there. So now the reason in my traditional family recipe we put it in this way is I was told one of my great grandfather he was able to taste whether you put a vegetable in first or seasoning, because seems like if you put a vegetable in before seasoning and all the seasoning gonna be fall on vegetables and he can taste that. So that's why we always put the seasoning in there. All right, next I'm gonna blend it up before I start to deal with the carrots. So regarding the carrots, certainly the first thing you do is you have to peel them up, and then I'll show you how to do it. All right, so put all the seasoning in. Usually, you kind of want to blend them together, making sure the seasonings are not like all bundled up. Make sure they are evenly distributed, and so that and you're gonna let it sit for a little bit um, with the meat, so that you kind of have the meat to get all the flavors. So, all right, we're gonna let it sit a little bit. Next thing we're gonna deal with is the carrots. So you're gonna want to certainly peel them first and wash them first. And then usually the way I do carrots is I just use a cheese grater. Like, see this one? And then they have different shape in there. Certainly we're not gonna use this big one. So the one I usually prefer is this side. You see how fine they are. It's not like this, not this side, but then this side. So any cheese grater you buy, you're gonna find this kind of side. Some of them are bigger size, some of them this is on the smaller side. And then you're just gonna do things like this, kind of like how you grate cheese, right? Go up and down, and then I just want to give you a better angle, showing you how I do it. All right, in the end, this is the kind of the fine carrot you want to achieve. Um, And then after you finish all 8 carrots, you can just dump them into your meat bowl there and blend them together. All right, I'm gonna work on my carrots. All right, so I grated all of the carrots. You can see there are a lot of them. And then you just keep blending them, making sure they're kind of together with the lamb. I think I like carrots with lamb because carrots they're sweet, and then it kind of provides that sweetness flavor into your dumpling. Um, and also they absorb a lot of grease from the lamb so that your dumpling is not too greasy. All right, so I think I'll call it good. Now the last thing you're gonna put in your dumpling is green onions or scallions. I actually don't know the difference. Um, Now the way the correct way to do it is you're only supposed to put the white part of the onion in there, but then and then just throw away the green part of it. But then sometimes I do leave some of the green part because I don't want to waste them. So certainly you want to chop off all the roots. We're not gonna need that. And then you just need to kind of chop them into like small rings. I want to give you a better angle seeing this. See. Now, usually, like for my family traditional recipe, they may just actually just stop here because this is all the white part and throw away the rest. Well, I usually kind of stop in there and just trying to, don't waste so much of the vegetables because, yeah, they're all vegetable, all good for you. So, all right, I have a lot of onion here to chop, and after I finish that, I'm gonna put it back into the dumpling. All right, so all the green onions are in. So just a heads up, they're kind of like onions. So when you chop them, you may cry a little bit. So if you're sensitive, maybe trying to get a pair of swim goggle or something. So now my last ingredient, which is actually a secret ingredient from my family, is these chives. So this is optional because I think they are only available when in Chinese or Asian grocery store. Usually other grocery store, the chives you get are kind of round, and it's actually similar to a scallion. But then these Chinese chive, they're actually flat. You see that? Kind of like a grass. So but then they work in a similar way as onion. They provide a lot of flavor into your dumpling. You don't need them much, so just like small bundle like this. But then this is completely optional because they are only available in Asian grocery stores. Sometimes, if I have a difficulty to get them, I just opt it out, which works fine. So this is optional. So you just wash them and chop them up as scallion and put it together. All right, so we have the dough ready and then we have the filling ready. The next step is we're gonna make dumpling. Now, let me first show you the traditional way of making it. So traditional way, you're gonna want to kind of make the dough into a longer shape. Gonna grab another. Into a longer shape, and then you want to cut them off into smaller pieces like this, or I just stretch them. And then in the end, you kind of want to roll them into a ball shape. Now, first thing you do, push them flat into this, and then we roll them. Now, this is probably the most tricky part of making dumplings. So in traditional family, New Year together, the entire family will sit together making dumpling. Now, this is the most skillful person will do this. So this is what it would do it. You kind of first of all, when you try to roll, you use your dominant hand, right hand, to control the roller doing this, and then the other hand, you need to keep rotating it. Another thing is when you try to roll it, try to stay on the edge because in the end, you want your peel to be thicker in the center because that will be the bottom of each dumpling, and the very thin on the edge because in the end you're gonna fold them, so that's twice of the thickness. So and then you are rolling. The left hand is kind of rotating, but also stretch a little bit. And Here we go. This is a perfect dumpling peel. So this is a traditional way, certainly very labor intensive. Um, and let me show you what I'm doing now using modern technology. So what I'm doing now is I bought this pasta maker. I believe this is actually the lasagna maker with my kitchen mixer, which will make a sheet of dough, and also this cookie cutter. So this is what I'm gonna do it. Um, again, um, I'm not professional on making Italian noodles, so for those of you who are Italian and really good at making noodles, please let me know if there's anything I should improve while making this thing. So what I find is in the beginning, this is not looking good, right? You kind of need to fold it and put some dough on it and keep doing it. It will get better. That's what I learned. Now, certainly, you see this thing, you can adjust the thickness. I usually have it at number 4. Um, certainly, it might be easier if you make it thicker, but then in the end, you may have to roll and make it thinner a little bit. And what I find is anything thinner than 4 is very hard to take care of. So you can see after several rounds, this is actually getting better and better. I think I'm gonna do one last round in here. All right. So this is a perfect sheet of dough to make lasagna, I guess. Then I'm gonna put it flat on the board and use a cookie cutter. So I will cut it and then I'm gonna roll a little bit. So if you don't want to roll, just cut it. You may want to find a bigger size of cookie cutter, and then again, that's all up to you. And again, this is a different family tradition. Some family I know of, they love to make small dumplings. They're like proud of how small their dumplings are. There's certainly more flavor, I think, when you make dumplings smaller. Some family, like my family, we are okay with bigger dumpling because when the dumplings are bigger, you get more meat and it's actually more efficient because think about it. The bigger they are, the less dumpling you have to make, right? When you make them small, you're gonna have to make a lot of them. So it's different personal preference, and then I'm gonna not gonna tell you what size is the perfect. Um, so I just use a cookie cutter to cut them into kind of all the circle shape. Now, I think the advantage of doing this way is in the end, all of your dumpling gonna have exactly the same size. Compared to the traditional way, you're gonna have to control the size, and then you may end it up with some bigger dumpling and a smaller dumpling, and then it might be harder to cook in the end. So all right, so this is all I make. So you can just start to make dumpling as it is. I prefer to still roll a little bit, just make the edge thinner. So again, this is gonna be much quicker and easier than the traditional way of rolling from scratch. So now I'll call it done. So all right, that's one dumpling. Now, the next I want to show you is actually how to assemble it, right? So this is the filling, right? You take a little bit. If you're not good at chopstick, feel free to use a spoon. And then you put a little bit in the center. Again, if you ask 100 Chinese people, they have 100 way of making this dumpling. Um, But the number one rule when making them is seal it perfectly. So doesn't matter how it look in the end, doesn't matter how ugly they are, how beautiful they are. You want to make sure they are sealed so that they do not fall apart when you boil them. So you kind of need to squeeze them and maybe kind of like squeeze and roll a little bit. So and at this point, it's perfect good dumpling. But if you want to make it better, I usually do this way. You kind of squeeze it. Now it looks better. Kind of like a traditional money in China, in the old China day. So, all right, that's one dumpling. So I'm gonna keep cooking and keep making them. And this is usually you have the entire family sit together and little kids they will focus on dough and other parents they can make dumplings, so it's actually a very fun Chinese activity during holiday. All right, so the final step is boil them. Say this is the amount of dumpling we just made. um, Certainly, there are other ways to make dumplings. Some people like to pan fry them, or you can steep them, like steam them. But yeah, our family traditional way is just boil them. So you're gonna want to boil some water, and when the water is boiling, start to put them in the pan, and make sure kind of have a distance between them. I think that's a good amount. And then I usually use a big ladle like this. And then you want to kind of stir them so that they don't get sticky with each other. And then the way you do is you push them because this thing can be sharp. If you do them this way, you are at the risk of breaking them. So just push like this using the back of your a big spoon or ladle. And then just push and making sure they don't stick to each other. Now about boiling them, certainly if you ask some of my family member, they have different way to tell how good is it. I just use the most simple way. They call the 3 cup, meaning you want to boil them and then put 1 cup of water. Make sure you boil them again. Put the 2nd cup of water. Make sure you boil them for the 3rd time, and then put the 3rd cup of water. And then you boil them, you open the lid a little bit, and then until the next time it start to boil. And then when you see all the dumplings are kind of floating and all puffy on the top, and then that's when you know the dumpling is ready. Um, all right, so I think I'm just gonna be keep cooking and I'll show you what it looks like once it's all ready. So, and actually, I think it's boiled a little bit. So it's I see it's the first time it started boiling, and then this is the first time you're gonna put 1 cup of water in there, and then you let it boil for a second time. So that's how you do it. All right, I'll keep cooking it, and I'll show you what it looks like after it's all cooked. All right, so after 3 cups of cold water, you can see it's pretty good now. The water is really boiling. And then these dumplings, they're all big, they're floating, and they're all puffy. So you know they're good and ready. Then I'm gonna just take them out. Again, you gotta be careful so that you don't break them. Um, all done. So let's get ready to eat. All right, so I'm gonna now start to eat. So now, now come to certainly dumpling. You can just eat it as it is, no problem. Now, when it comes to dipping sauce, again, different people have different preference. Now, I usually just use black vinegar. Some people may add soy sauce. Some people like add some sesame oil or spicy oil. It's really up to you. So now I'm gonna try it out. So this is a previous plate I made. And I really like the shape of this one in there. So you kind of just dip it with the vinegar and making sure everything is in there. And Let's take a bite. Mmm, it's very good. Let me give you some light in there. See, there's lamb, there's carrots, give you sweetness in there, and then there is green onion and the chive. So this is perfect. So I love my family's recipe. All right, so this is how I make dumpling, the Chinese traditional food. This is probably the most complicated recipe I would make. Usually, I like make something quick, and I like to simplify things. But then for dumplings, it's very labor intensive, but then it's very very good, delicious food for holidays, and especially when you have big family gathering together, make it together. It's actually a very fun experience for everyone, and I had a lot of good memory when I was young. So, all right, thank you for watching my video, and I hope you like my family's traditional dumpling recipe with a lamb. And if you like my video, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you.